Hi everybody, it's Liv and Ashley. We are here in Charlottesville, Virginia at the University of Virginia for the Division I NCAA Cross Country Championships. I am so excited. The build-up has definitely lived up to all the expectations so far. Ashley, you have been here before. What does it mean to just be back here in November?
Yes, we're out here right now at Panorama Farms in Charlottesville, which is going to be the host of this race. And, you know, it's beautiful out here. We're out in the Virginia mountains. You know, it's a privately owned farm, and I think we're going to see some really exciting action here. The weather's going to be great. I'm really excited.
Yes, it's going to be wonderful. I have my bag of wonderful pistachios. They have been giving me all the energy I need to talk to all the athletes, the coaches, take in this atmosphere, the vibes.
The vibes are great.
Vibes are great. I'm really feeling it. Nice, cool weather this morning. The leaves are changing. Of course, we're from Austin, so it's kind of nice to get the different scenery, which is really great.
Well, let's break down what we're going to do for the rest of the show. So we are going to break down these top storylines by talking to some of these elite athletes that are going to be in contention for titles tomorrow, talk to the coaches, talk to the teams, and we will break down what you need to watch for tomorrow at the NCAA Cross Country Championships.
Are you looking for a delicious and nutritious snack that packs a real protein punch? Crack into a good source of protein with tasty, healthy, Wonderful Pistachios. Each 1 ounce serving of Wonderful Pistachios contains 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. It's one of the highest protein nuts out there. But that's not all. Pistachios are also known for their fiber and better for you, unsaturated fats, which may help keep you feeling fuller longer. And the best part? Wonderful Pistachios comes in a variety of flavors and sizes, perfect for enjoying with your family and friends or taking them with you on your adventures. So whether you're dropping off the kiddos or running in between meetings, fuel up with healthy and tasty snack. Wonderful Pistachios will be your new go-to snack. Check out wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more about how these little green wonders can power up your day.
All right, Ashley, we are at the 1 mile marker for this course. It's going to be really exciting. We had a chance to run this morning, and without a doubt, Virginia is hilly. What can we expect from this course, the conditions for tomorrow morning in regards to weather, and just how we should attack the course?
Well, I know you mentioned weather there, and I was looking at the hour-by-hour forecast for tomorrow, and it looks like around that 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock range when this race is going to be happening, both for the men and the women. It's going to be right hovering around 59, 60 degrees. That's pretty optimal, I feel like, for cross-country running, and so that's going to be very exciting, ideal conditions for this race. And then if you're talking about the course as well, Panorama Farms, like you mentioned, you know, there are some hills here. It's not, you know, a pancake flat course by any means. There's definitely some hills in the back that, you know, athletes will have to, you know, tackle. But overall, like, it's a very spectator-friendly course. You're going to have the men doing a few loops on this course, the women as well, and so I think it's going to be a pretty honest race, you know, course-wise.
And also, even just right now, it's not really windy. And I think it's going to be that way tomorrow also, so the athletes aren't going to be fighting against wind at certain parts. So like you said, we're literally going to have optimal running conditions.
You know, compared to, if you look at what it was last year in Stillwater, it was cold. I mean, people had on the arm sleeves, the gloves. This year it is not going to be the case. It's going to be very, very ideal here.
Ashley, we have been walking the course, and it's just absolutely beautiful here. I cannot believe the last time that Charlottesville has hosted the NCAA Cross Country Championships has been since 1987.
Gosh, yeah, it's been 36 years, almost 4 decades since it's been back in Charlottesville. And to be honest, like, I love the vibes here. Like, I can't believe it hasn't been back here since then. You got the mountains. I love the mountains. You know, I'm a mountain gal. So it's pretty surprising, but I think we're all very excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. The trees are beautiful. The sun is shining. You can hear the birds. The grass feels great on your feet, so it's just going to be an exciting race to watch. So I feel like it hasn't stopped the competition, though, from coming to Charlottesville. Let's talk about the women's field, specifically the individuals. Over the last several weeks, we've just anticipating Parker Valby versus Caitlin Toohey. We saw them compete against each other at Nuttycombe. Valby had the better day, Toohey right there, but it's a whole new day few weeks since that moment. What do you think how this is going to shake out?
Yeah, as you said, this whole build-up has been Tui versus Valby, and rightfully so. You know, Tui is the defending champion of NC State. She, you know, had that awesome kick at the end last year to beat Parker Valby, who went out really hard early in 2022 in Stillwater, and, you know, Tui caught her at the end. Now we are in 2023. They faced each other one time already this season at the Nuttycombe Invitational, and instead it was the reverse. So it was the same tactics where Valby went out hard early, but Tui just couldn't respond. And so Valby already has the win on her this season. She has the edge going into this race, but Tui is the defending champion. She is going to have that gamer mentality. And so I'm just really curious about how the race tactics will play out on race day. Will we see Parker Valby do what she usually does and go out really hard, or is she going to, you know, kind of play games a little bit and stick with the pack and, you know, see maybe it'll come down to a sprint to the finish between her and Tui.
Yeah, I've been kind of following social media, and a lot of people were saying, like, we feel like Parker Valby's probably going to get out aggressive as she normally has.
Yeah.
The thing is, what's going to happen that last 1K? That's going to be the big question mark going into these championships. If Caitlin Tui is there, I've seen a lot of people post on social media that they're like, yeah, I think Tui's going to come up strong, exactly how we saw last year.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be interesting because I feel like we already know what Valby's going to do. And it's just going to be like catch me if you can kind of game.
And it's going to be interesting, too, because, I mean, obviously no hills like Stillwater had, you know, OK State on that course. But, again, this isn't like a super flat course. They're going to have to navigate some hills, you know, throughout this course and some downhills as well. And so that may play a role into when, you know, certain people make their moves. You know, if Valby goes out early, that may, you know, determine when Tui decides to make her move to get up to the front and be really aggressive. But I really do think it's probably going to be, you know, obviously, as people are saying, probably a battle between those two.
Yeah. And another individual I think to keep out for is Elise Stearns from NAU.
Yes.
I know we're going to be talking about the team race in a little bit, but I feel like Elise Stearns is also going to be somewhat in that mix. Do you agree?
I agree. I think, you know, there's a general consensus that, like, she's going to be that third girl really trying to win her first title here and potentially lead the NAU women to a team title, which I know we'll talk about later. You know, she won, I believe, the UVA Invitational here, and so she already has been to this course, so she knows how to navigate some of these twists and turns and some of these hills as well. So I think that will probably play to her advantage. Not to say that, you know, knowing the course beforehand is like a huge advantage, but it is an advantage. And so I think she'll be using that to her advantage to be in the mix.
Now, speaking of advantage, I know we talked about hills. What comes into mind is like Elise Stearns, NAU program. They've competed here. They know what to expect.
Right.
Also, we've talked about NC State. They're in North Carolina. There's hills. So I'm very curious about how Parker is going to attack this course. Specifically in Florida, there's not many hills.
Well, we did see how she fared last year at OK State. She did do very well. So, but yeah, and I think there, you know, there is that advantage for NAU as well, having been here before. There is something to that.
Yeah. We're on the other side of the hill now, Ashley. There's a lot of hills happening, and we're on one of them. Let's talk about the women's team race. This is going to be so exciting. NAU, NC State. I'm going to throw BYU into this too.
Yeah.
I'm cheering for them as well. But what are your thoughts on how
it's going to be? I know you like to say the word spicy a lot. It's going to be spicy. You know, I feel like especially on the women's side, there's been a lot of, you know, matchups building, right?
Yeah.
Tui versus Valby on the, you know, the team front. NC State versus NAU. You know, NC State, they're obviously the defending champions, and so they have that going ahead. But you have NAU, the women, who, you know, usually you hear about the NAU men, but this year they're, you know, legitimately right now ranks the top team in the entire country. So they are going to be looking for their first women's team title, and they've already beat NC State this season, as we saw at Nuttycombe.
And I think Mike Smith is doing a great job of coaching and leading that program. And this is the first, if they do win this, it's going to be their first ever NCAA Cross Country Championship title on the women's side.
Correct.
And we're going to talk about the men's in a little bit, but they also have a chance to just completely sweep this for both men and women's programs.
And I think what they've shown this season is they have that depth, right?
Yeah.
Like we've seen how they performed at Nuttycombe. They destroyed the field, including NC State, the BYUs. And then if you look how they did in their, they perfect scored their conference meet. They won the UVA Invitational very handily as well. So I think, and then regionals too. How can we forget about regionals?
Right.
They ran without Elise Stearns and again, destroyed a pretty full-strength BYU team. And so I think, you know, if you're looking at that, you know, depth makes a cross-country team. That's a championship-winning team. And if you have that spread really small between 1 through 5, that's how you're going to win.
And I love how we talked earlier, like NAU has been very consistent this year. That has been in the bag without a doubt. That is something they've had in their back pocket. So pretty much all the ladies are ready to go. They look strong. I want to switch gears and talk about NC State.
Yeah.
I know at regionals, it's very common to not see a lot of their top runners compete. Caitlin Tui was there. I know I was texting you. I'm like, hey, I did not see Leah Stevens. We're huge fans of her. She's a freshman. Has just really elevated and helped been, I feel like, the solid third runner for NC State. I've talked about how I think NC State's going to win this. They're the defending champions, as we mentioned. I feel like they have the talent to do so. Everyone just needs to show up tomorrow morning, handle their business. Do you? I know you don't really agree with me, but I was like, what are your thoughts on NC State?
Well, yeah, I think that's a good point. And you mentioned, I think that's a key storyline as well, is like which key players on these teams had rest going into this at regionals. As we saw with NC State, they didn't run Leah Stevens, who's been their number 3. They didn't run Kelsey Camille, who has been a very, an All-American at like every cross country race she's ever competed in at NCAA's. And so I think once if those, those factors right there, if everyone is healthy, if everyone is fresh, if everyone's ready to go, you have Tui as your low stick, you have everyone else behind you running really well, it's going to be hard to beat them. However, on the flip side, NAU also, stopped, they didn't race Elise Stearns at regionals, so it's going to be interesting. Yeah, and look out for BYU as well. Yes, and I do think another storyline is, since these teams are so deep, like, could we see a points record, like lowest points scored in a meet? Because I know that people have been talking about that.
That's interesting.
What are your thoughts?
I feel like that's an interesting take.
Well, think about it, right? Like if you have, someone like NC State who could have, legitimately like 4 All-American, 4 to 5 All-Americans on your squad. There you go. That's like barely any points.
I guess it's true. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
That's right.
We're here at the course with Coach Ricardo from Stanford. You have your men's and your women's program here. Just talk to me about the season, how you're feeling as a whole as you're coming here to the final NCAA championships.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Coach Clark is the women's coach, so I can comment on the men's, but, our regular season wasn't very good. We know that, and, we kind of turned it around for the postseason, and things have been going well leading up to here with winning at the Pac-12 and the West Regional, so we just want to continue that momentum. There's just, again, a bit of a bumpy road up and down, but we're on an upward trajectory, I think, and we're positive for tomorrow.
I have the honor of having Coach Clark joining me. Now, Coach, talk to me about this team. What kind of separates your program from all the other Division I teams that are competing tomorrow?
Well, I mean, everyone's in the same talent bracket, so to speak. And yes, some have a little more lead here or there, but top bracket. And this team here has a good mindset. And I want them to just run tough, but their mindset is unique. We've had some ups and downs throughout the year, but they have a good way to stay focused on their task. And hopefully they'll show them good pertinacity tomorrow and go out there and run with the toughness that we train with.
We're coming up to the finish where everything is going to come down to the wire. Men's race, I feel like it's going to be a sprint to the finish. There's not one individual that I think is just going to completely run away with this title. So who are the top contenders? We have Graham Blakes of Harvard, Kai Robinson of Stanford, Drew Bosley from NAU,
Nico Young
from NAU.
That's just a few of the players.
That's just a few, yeah.
I think like you said, this is like one of the few years where I think there's like no real person that I'm like, okay, they're totally hands down going to win this race. There's not even two that it's like, okay, it's going to be a duel, like it is probably between Tui and Valby in the women's race. And I think it's interesting to note too, as you mentioned some of those names, we have not seen an American male runner win the NCAA title since Dathan Ritzenheim in the early 2000s. So we could potentially see this here. If you think about, we named athletes like Graham Blanks, Nico Young. So I think that could be interesting storyline as well.
You speak of Graham Blanks, and I know I've been like on the Harvard train. I'm really rooting for him. He's had an undefeated season, big wins this year, even took down athletes like Nico Young. So I feel like that just puts him and his confidence at a new higher level. You, on the other hand, have other picks.
Yes,
and how do you think that's going to shake out?
I think on the last podcast we did, I said Nico Young, but I had like a B pick.
B pick.
My slide pick. My other pick, I think it's interesting to note, we have, some international athletes, some freshmen that are doing really well this year. And I looked at someone like Habdam Samuel from New Mexico, who's just been running outstanding. He won the GRIAC Invitational. He won the NCAA Mountain Regional over Nico Young. And so I think he could be, potentially be someone that's going to be challenging challenging as well.
So that's 5 heavy hitters.
Yes.
I'm just, when I say this last 1K is going to be a sprint, like you're about to see all the fans running to the finish line to see how this unfolds.
It's going to be interesting too, because you kind of like as we've seen here at this course, like the finish, you have to go up kind of a little hairpin turn, like up a hill, and then you finish. So it may be just like 10 guys, like all just like throwing it out there. You know, I think it's going to be very interesting for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. Actually, we are hanging out here because we're about to talk about the men's team race. This is going to be exciting. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for a couple of teams here. Let's start with, I think, the biggest storyline that you and I both have. Will we see NAU take a 4-peat here?
You know, I think of the storylines in the men's team race, I feel like that's the one that could most likely actually come to fruition. You know, NAU, they've been dominating teams all season long. They dominated everyone at Nuttycombe. They beat, second place BYU, but I can't even remember how many points, probably almost 100 points. They went into the Mountain Regional and destroyed there as well. They have that experience. They won last year off the tiebreaker against OSU. I think it could definitely happen. As we've mentioned before, Mike Smith has something very historic going on at NAU over the past few years, and I think they're definitely the likely favorites to pull out that 4-peat.
I like how you said Mike Smith has done a great job of coaching these programs, and there's just so many talented individuals on that team. Do you almost think NAU is going into this race with a lot of pressure, just knowing we're about to go for the fourth big dance here?
I don't know. Obviously, I think there's some pressure going into that, but also, in a way, I feel like it relieves the pressure. It's like, hey, we've done this before. They know it's going to take. They know it's going to take, 7 guys, 5 scorers, packing up together, running, really well, running within themselves, and just going out there and competing. They're ones that I think Mike Smith has built a program where they just like to run. They like to race, and that's just kind of the mentality. Is like, we're just going to put our best foot forward, and hopefully it works out in our favor.
Now, I think the next best team, potentially right there, just a couple notches away, is Oklahoma State. I feel like we haven't seen much from them. We saw them compete at Jamboree, not even with the full squad. Competed at regionals. Here we are at the NCAA Championships. I feel like I just have a lot of questions around them. Will they be able to stack up against a team that has races underneath their belt, that looks sharp, is ready to go? What are your thoughts on the Cowboys?
I just have a lot of, questions still.
Yeah,
like you said, as you mentioned, they opened up their season at Cowboy Jamboree, not the full squad. They had some of their star freshmen debut, and that's, they've been really strong for them. But that was about it. Then they go to conference, and they do very well there at Big 12s. And then at regionals, they almost perfect score. They scored 19 points, I believe, and won there on their home course, which, obviously that has some, home course advantage. But I think that shows that, they likely are pretty strong, but I guess the other question is will it be enough to challenge NAU like they did last year, where, as we all saw in 2022, they tied. NAU wins off the tiebreaker, where you go 1v1 against, runners 1 through 5 on both teams. I think that's going to be interesting.
Let's talk about BYU. Huge fan here of BYU. I feel like they're going into this race the 3rd best team, but I'm not counting them out either. I think they've just been putting the races together when it mattered most, and qualified here for nationals.
Yeah, I think if anyone can sneak up there and try to break up that NAU-OSU pack up at the front, it's going to be BYU. They're always a consistent player at the NCAA, Cross Country Championships, and so I think they have that experience. They have the coaching. They have that mentality that I think could potentially sneak up there in between, at least the top 3. But, I do think it's going to be challenging to break up NAU and OSU.
Coach McCraven, the last time that A&M has had a team come to, especially on the ladies' side, come into the NCAA Championships was about 23 years ago. So how does it feel for you to just kind of get the ball rolling and have this program really show out this weekend?
Well, it was really exciting, obviously. It was a fun weekend at the regional meet. And we've been, so close so many times. And Coach Abel was on some of those teams that were really close. And so, you just, one of those things where it was satisfying because you go into the meet and this is what we're capable of doing, but they still got to do it and they have to execute. And they did a great job executing. That's really all we could ask for.
Coach Stenoff, congratulations, first of all, on being here. How are you mentally feeling going into this? I know coaches put a lot of work and effort into it, but here you are and supporting your team as well.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thanks for doing this, by the way. And yeah, I'm really proud of the ladies. I think making it to NCAA Championships is an honor within itself. We've got some veterans, but we've also got a young team, right? You know, our first 3 girls are freshmen, sophomore. So, you know, coming here and getting them in this experience and getting this opportunity is awesome. I'm excited for them. They're ready to go.
You have underclassmen, as you mentioned, just kind of paving the way. Do you feel like they kind of stepped into that leadership role already?
Yeah, I think when you have those younger ladies kind of up at the front, I tell them you always fall into that pseudo leader role because girls are going to look up to you. It doesn't matter if you're a freshman or senior when you're one of the top runners. Other girls are going to value everything you bring and everything you do. So yeah, they've stepped up into that. They've kind of embraced that moment. And I told them we're young, yes, but the expectation is we're Alabama, right? And we've got this chip on our shoulder and we've got something to kind of show. So yeah, they've done a great job kind of leading this program and saying, hey, we deserve to be NCAA's ladies. We got to take care of business, so it's not just going to be handed to you.
All right, Ashley, we are down the home stretch, literally just a few meters away from champions being crowned. Respectively, there's going to be an exciting men's race, an exciting women's race kicking off here in Charlottesville for the NCAA Cross Country Championships. It's just the vibes. They're here. They're present.
Yes,
We're super
I know.
excited.
We keep talking about how good the vibes are, and I'm so excited. Again, it's going to be really exciting here at Panorama Farms. You know, I feel like we're going to be treated to some really interesting races. It's November. That's cross country season. I'm really, really pumped.
All right, so make sure you stay tuned to FloTrack for more interviews, all the content, photos. You know where to go. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll see you here.